Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Module 7B. In the previous Module 7A, we talked about developmental disabilities, and we, at the final end of it, we differentiated developmental disabilities from mental illness, and that was what we stopped in the last module. So right now, we're continuing from developmental disabilities and home care. The goal of what we are learning is to learn how to care for them. There will not be need to learn about developmental disabilities if we don't have their care in mind. So today we're talking about developmental disabilities and home care. Developmental disabilities and home care. Now, developmental disabilities at home, in some cases, a person with developmental disability may reside in a long-term care facility or a group home, and workers in those environments may help to provide care and support for the person. Other times, a family who has a member with a developmental disability may decide to care for their family members within a home, and they need extra help doing so. But this is where the important role of the home health care aid or personal care aid comes in. First, they have to provide assistance with completion of activities of daily living. They provide supervision, teach positive coping skills to the patient and family, and serve as a source of respite, that is, relief for the family during the times of high stress or high life demands. Like we discussed initially, that developmental disabilities can be very stressful, especially emotionally. It can cause a wide range of emotional stress for the patient and for the family themselves. So that's where we come in as home health aid and personal care aid. You have to relieve this family during the times of this, or the help in meeting their needs. They'll provide emotional support in addition to completing physical care and home care tasks. And also, two of the most important roles providing care within the home are to help the person be as independent as possible and to always promote self-determination. We know that there is a definition of nursing by Virgin Anderson, whose aim is, he said, to help the patient gain independence as rapidly as possible. Make a brief, let me just briefly, it said, the unique function of a nurse, now not just a nurse here, both home health aid and personal care aid, but specifically the unique function of a nurse is to assist the patient, whether sick or well. Here we have the patient in mind, the patient is what? Is sick. Good. In physical well, to perform those activities that contribute to health or its recovery, or then leading the patient to a peaceful death. And we are to do this in such a way as to help a patient gain independence as rapidly as possible. So we are helping them towards. So say the two most important roles of providing care within the home is to help the person to be as independent as possible, and also to always promote self-determination as making choices and plans for oneself. Remember, we said something that because some of these disabled persons have to live on others, have to uh, live on people, they are not dependent, they are not self-dependent, so they have to be dependent on other persons. They lack the ability to make plans for themselves, to determine things for themselves. So as home health aid, we are not coming into their lives to take ownership of their life. We are helping them to be independent and also teach them that in spite of their disability, they can make decisions for themselves and help them achieve that. For example, here, this is a picture of a guy talking with a person who is disabled, This could be due to, the motor reflexes or the motor functions are not working. That's why he's not being able to walk in a wheelchair. Discuss with them, talk to them, show them love and kindness, and here helping to feed a person who can't feed for themselves. Caring for a child with a developmental disability. Caring for a child with a developmental disability. This is the same as caring for any other child in the sense that they have the same basic needs. Every human have their basic needs. And as such, the only difference between everybody have needs, but the difference between those that are developmentally disabled is that they can't perform some certain tasks for themselves. That means they can't help themselves overcome some needs. So that's where the help comes in. Like unlike someone who can walk, everyone has the necessity to walk, at least locomote from one place to the other. So that needs goes for everyone. But for those who have developmental disability, they tend not to be able to move, and that's where the help comes in. But there's something called in this model, we're talking about the hierarchy, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Everyone needs food, everyone needs water, everyone needs safety, everyone needs love, everyone needs a sense of belonging within their family and community. Everyone needs social interaction and develop a sense of independence and self-determination. So both the disabled and the able-bodied persons fall under this group of needs. Now, unlike other children of the same age, the developmentally disabled persons care they require even additional care, like a higher level of care. So they may not achieve the same developmental milestones, or they may achieve them at later dates than other children of the same age. So they may need extra help in school or have additional members on their home health care team to help meet their needs. So with extra support and treatment interventions, children with developmental disabilities can lead full and productive lives filled with joy and happiness, just like any other children. So the fact that these children are physically or developmentally disabled doesn't mean they lack necessity of needs, like they lack those needs. They also have needs, just like other children do. They are not alien, like I said in the previous model. They are not aliens. They feel what we feel. They have emotions too. In fact, they even need more care than a random person who goes around his daily activities, performing activities of daily living. But since they can't perform activities of daily living, they tend to need even more, not just more, but even special care, extra support, extra treatment, extra interventions. That's what they deserve. So when that is caring for children with developmental disability. Now, for an adult with developmental disability, caring for them is the same thing as caring for any other adult in the sense that they have the same basic needs. Every adult have their needs. Need for food, need for water, need for safety, need for love, need for sense of belonging with their families and communities, social interactions, and also develop a sense of independence and self-determination. Unlike other adults at the same age group, they may require additional care, of course, because they are not able to do the things other adults like their age do. For example, they may not be able to live independently or go to work or have a family of their own, or they may not be able to do many things, but they need additional support. So because they can't do all this, they need additional support. Now, it is very important to remember that just because the adults may have impairment, they are not children. The fact that an adult who has cerebral palsy, he developed cerebral palsy since he was a child and he's grown now as an adult. That doesn't mean that they are still children. No, they are not. So even if they need to have complete care, like you need to bath them, you need to brush their teeth, you need to wash, like do virtually everything for them. You should keep this in mind that they are adults. They should be treated like one. So they should be provided with opportunities to socialize with other adults, to make choices, and to be as independent and self-reliant as possible. Now, self-reliant as possible. Some people may not be able to work, maybe perform some activities, but they may be able to do a few things. Now, allow them, like, teach them to do those few things that their strength permits them to. That's making them to be independent as possible. So they should be provided with opportunity to socialize with other adults. They should not be segregated. That is one problem which we discussed in the previous model of people with developmental disability. They can't socialize. Number one, not because they don't want to, but because they are not even given the room to. That's what we just neglect. Nobody wants to be seen around them. Nobody wants to associate with them. So it becomes a whole lot of emotional load of stress on them, or emotional load of stress on them. So they should be provided with the support they need and help them to interact with other adults like themselves and to make choices for themselves and to be as independent and self-reliant as possible. Always treat adults with developmental disabilities as adults, not children. That is that is a clear cut. Put this should be in highlight. Always treat adults with developmental disabilities as adults. Respect them, uh, their dignity, their self-esteem. None of this should be displaced because they are not children. Another aspect of working with adults with a developmental disability is to be aware that many also have sexual desires and needs, just like any other adult. Just because the person has disability does not mean that they are incapable of sexual or emotional intimacy. So people who have physical disabilities may need to make adjustments during sexual intimacy, but this does not mean that they are not capable of having sexual relationship and that they do not desire them or have sexual feelings. They do. The fact that they are physically or developmental disabled doesn't mean that they don't have a libido. They also have libido. They have sexual urges. They develop sexual urges. So never make judgments or assume you know the sexual needs or behaviors of a person with disability. Always be respectful of times needed for privacy. Always be respectful of times needed for privacy. Initially, we said two things now are clear cut. Treat them as adults and respect times of privacy. So what are the expectations and attitudes? The expectations and attitude that we have discussed throughout this course, all people have different views of family. Everybody comes from different cultures and everyone have different beliefs and values. Everyone has their own unique identities and we all have many parts to what makes us who we are, regardless of whatever or whether the person has a developmental disability or not. It's important to remember that all of these differences should be respected and valued. Even Nigeria that we are happens to be a land where we have thousands of languages, thousands of cultures with different values, different words, different things associated to each culture. And we'll see people with developmental abilities all through various cultures and various lands and various ethnic groups. So we don't treat them like with our belief ahead. You don't stereotype, or how would I even put it? You don't just conclude on something as the ideal, because what is ideal to you may not be ideal to other culture groups, to other cultures, to other ethnic groups. So you have to have this in mind that regardless of the person's ability, remember the differences in culture, differences in value should be respected. Now, Addressing the person, not the disability. Address the person, not the disability. One aspect that is very important when providing home care to a person with a developmental disability is to know about and respect in regards to the term that people use to describe their disability. Now, hope you know that we are talking about home care for those with developmental disability. And here we talk about the expectations, what you do when you're taking care of an adult, what you do when you're taking care of a child, the expectations and attitudes, and now we're talking about the addressing the person, not disability. How do you address a person? Now, everybody has a name. Mr. So so so, not the man with so 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 disability. Do not describe your patients with their disability. Rather, use their names and the correct title. Like most of us do not like to be identified by a physical feature or problem. Say, that woman that has, or that man, that blind woman. That's outrightly wrong. Or that girl on wheelchair, or that guy with cerebral palsy. These terms are wrong. Some people may not like that term disabled. Oh, this is my disabled patient. That's wrong. So why don't you refer them or term them using their ability? Oh, another term entirely. They have a name. This is Mr. John. This is Mr. Peter. This is that. Rather than saying the person who cannot. One problem about people is that we focus more on the inabilities of others than their ability. A person who cannot, let's say, a girl who has autism and is quite intellectual, you would not describe them by saying that intelligent girl. Rather, they will say that girl with autism. That is the trend. That is the trend of our world now. We describe people by their inabilities. And as home health aides and personal care aides, this is outrightly wrong. We are not permitted to describe our patients with their disability. So as home care aides, you should always use the term that the family and patient prefer. So ask them, how do you want me to address you, sir? So they call me by Mr., call me by my name, call me by this, call me by that. You address them by that. So you take cues about the terms the family prefer by the language they use. Some languages, not all the family speaks English, as well as they understand English. Some of them, not everyone has an English name. So you take cues from the families. What name do they prefer to call the patients? And you call them by that name, not by their disabilities. To be sensitive when referring to a person with a disability, be careful not to say things like they are disabled or they are deaf. When teaching them, let's say you're having an interaction with your supervisor in the presence of your patient, and then you say, this is my patient, my deaf patient, or my disabled patient. No, that's wrong. You never identify a person with a disability by their disability. For example, home health aides or personal care aides would not say he or she is a blind person, or he or she is an autistic, or he or she is an ADHD patient, or the Down syndrome patient, or whatever. These terms are offensive and they label the person as disability than a person with a disability. So when you call them a disabled person, they see themselves as disability. So it makes them the disability themselves rather than a person with a disability. So instead, they should say things like he or she has so syndrome, not he or she is an autistic person, he or she is a blind person. They are not fine, they are blind. That is true. But then you don't call them as the disability itself. You can term them in respect to uh maybe professional reasons you have to mention the disease they have. You say they have this syndrome. He or she has this syndrome. He or she have visual or hearing or physical impairment. That is still acceptable. At least it doesn't send the bad message across. Then again, aside from addressing the person by their disability, not addressing them by disability, we also focus on independence, productivity, and integration. As home health aides, we focus on independence. I said something, we are trying to help this person to gain independence as much as possible. So we are focusing on independence. What can you do for yourself? How can you cope by yourself? At least, if not necessarily in every aspect of life, in the little aspects where your strength permits, to focus on independence, productivity. Fine, you are disabled in this pattern, on these aspects of your being. In what aspects can you produce something? Like autistic, those people with autism, they fine. It is a developmental disability because they lack communication skill, but then some of them have high intellectual skill. So that is a strength. From the high intellectual capacity they have, as home care is, we are concerned with helping them to be as productive as possible within the range of their strengths, and also integration. Integrate them. You can do this, you can do that. Help them to do it. Make them do it. In working with people, with all people, it's important to promote independence. And there's no difference when working with people with developmental disabilities too. So while they have some limitations, such as not being able to physically be able to walk or feed themselves and maybe do other things, activities of daily living, this does not mean that a person with a developmental disability is unable to be independent in all ways. The developmental disability they have is in some certain ways, not in all aspects of their life. So the little aspects, no matter how small, help them to be independent by seeing them to be what productive within the range of their strength. So as home health aides or personal care aides, we should allow their patients with a disability to do all they can for themselves. You only assist. You don't do it all for them. So you help them to do the things they can do by themselves, and they should not take over. They should not take over doing something just because they may be able to do it better or more quickly. No matter how slow, no matter how slow they are, no matter how uncoordinated it feels, help them do it. Because you feel like they're wasting your time, so you don't use sharp sharp and you go. No, 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 no. Help them because the goal is not just to get it done. The goal is to get it done and help the patients gain independence as possible, and also help the person with his productivity. So if you just take on and do everything for them, they become even less uh, productive. And being less productive increases their disability. So the question sets in, are you helping them or you are making them worse? Gaining independence. So focus on independence and the integration. Still on that point, you have to be patient and kind. Allow time for tasks to be completed and don't rush the patient. Never be in a rush when dealing with patients like this. Never be in haste. Never be too in rush. When people feel they are working with someone uh who is a patient or who gives them time to complete uh tasks, they are more willing to try to do things by themselves. The more you allow them to help themselves, the more you tell them they can do it. These words sink down their mind. Your patients, you don't shout on them, don't yell at them because you know that it's not their fault. If not for the difficulty or the disability, they wouldn't be in that condition. So understanding their condition and as well as the patient himself, when you give these grounds to them, they are more willing to try things for themselves because they see that the more they try, the better they become. And no patient wants to see himself in the dependence forever. So they keep on trying. And this will give them a sense of independence and productivity. So never push a patient to do something they may not be able. So we are careful that as long as we want them to do something for themselves, we don't push them to do it. You must do this thing. If they can't do it, respect that and help them. But if they can even try, allow them to do the trying. So if you push them to do something that they are not able to, this will lead to a sense of failure and guilt. Imagine someone you know cannot walk, and you're telling him, try and stand, try and stand. You keep increasing the sense of failure and sense of people are failed again, are fallen, that they can't just do this. And then you are demoralizing this person and even complicating the job of the person even the more. Another important aspect in working with people with disabilities to promote integration is to promote integration. Integration here means including and involving a patient with a disability with other people who do not have a disability, helping them to mingle, to socialize, to interact with people who don't have a disability. Whenever possible, people who have disabilities should be included in family and community activities. For those who cannot walk, who are on wheelchair, at least they could use their hands for things that they could. For those who are autistic, they have no physical disability. So they can participate in what? In community activities. So all this will increase their integrative ability as well as increase their independence and their productivity. So you work with a supervisor and the family to plan activities to involve the patient. So fine, do not make them do what they cannot. We said that earlier, or help them do what they can, as this will help them. Again, the next point now is promote self-determination and community participation. Promote self-determination and community participation. Promoting self-determination or the ability of a person is to make one's choices or decision and plan is important for all people. Everybody wants to achieve or get to a stage where they can decide for themselves and their decision is right. And there are two things in deciding for yourself. It's either you decide, yes, you decide for yourself. It is either the decision is right and it works out for you or it's wrong. So not just making decisions for themselves, making right decisions for themselves. So you promote self-determination with the patient by giving them choices. Allow them to decide what foods they want to eat. You don't just infringe a food on them and say, you will eat that today, you will eat rice today, you will eat this food. So what do you want to eat? Give them ability to make choices. Being able to decide for oneself starts from the brink of what do I eat today? What do I wear today? Where do I go today? Now, it begins gradually when they begin to learn to do these things for themselves. They begin to learn to trust themselves, not trust themselves to know their appetite. Now, let me eat rice because I feel like eating rice. They know how their body works and they want to satisfy themselves. With that, they will be able to make even complex decisions for themselves in later times. But on the contrary, if they are not allowed to decide for themselves, then there is no self-trust because they can never believe that they would ever make a decision for themselves. So they're always waiting for an order. And then they will begin to live like robots. Only robots wait for others to do work. You impute your orders and it runs, you put your command and it runs it. So they are not robots, they are humans. So allow them to decide for themselves. The food they eat, the clothing they want to prefer to wear, or the order of tasks to complete. So as HHA, that's home health aid and personal care aid, you can ask, what would you like to do first? Take a bath or brush your teeth. Encourage the patient to select activities that they would like to do for fun and work to involve your patients with their family and community as much as possible. There are many resources within communities or families to participate in. So this may include school or church events, community events such as field days or musical events, or visiting local attractions such as the zoos, the museums. All people have a need to be part of something and to be involved with others around them. So this should not be neglected. Improving self-examination. Now we're talking about the care needs, discussing the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, care needs. Now remember that disability is not an illness, although it may lead to increased care needs of a person. Two disabilities, whether they are physical, cognitive learning, or social impairment or functioning, they all have the same basic needs as other people. So we'll discuss the Maslow hierarchy of needs in model 2. We'll explore how this applies to working with developmental disability patients now. Here is a diagram of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Look at it from, it's from, they call it the Maslow's triangle, from down to up. First thing is the physiological needs or the physical needs, talking about the need for food, need for water, need for warmth, need for rest, need for share, need for every other thing, like normal physiological needs of life. Then safety needs, we have needs for security, need for safety, need for shelter, to feel safe, job opportunities and the likes, health and safety needs. Belongingness or love needs, that's having image relationship with people, with friends, belonging to a family, a social group, a peer group. Esteem needs too, needs of being respected, prestige, feeling of accomplishment. Finally, the self-actualization need. Here we have achieving one's full potential, including one creative activities. So we're picking it one by one from the physical needs or the physiological needs. Now, when working with a patient with a developmental disability, home health aides or personal care aides may ask to provide or assist with self-care. Now, what are those self-care that happens to fall under the physiological needs, like bathing, skincare, dressing, toileting, feeding, measuring intake and output of other important tasks, measuring the output or intake of foods, and they're also important tasks. Home health aides or personal care aides to help patients meet their patients' physical needs. Promoting independence in the patient being able to meet their own physical needs whenever it's possible, and may have to be their patient's voice if they're able to communicate their needs. How are you your patient's voice when they can't communicate? We are quite observant. We are expected to be observant because a patient may always, some patients that don't usually talk when they are hungry, maybe they don't know how to say that they're hungry. So then they may become a little bit aggressive. I should be able to know that they are hungry. So you learn your patient, you study your patient, you know when does my patient needs this. So even when they can't communicate their needs, you are aware. So be aware of things you can do to promote comfort, such as provide your fluids, extra pillows to support them, the arm or the patient is not able to physically control. You turn them, position them well. You know, if they are immobile, they are not moving, they cannot move. And also provide food throughout the shift. You provide food. They should not be hungry. No, an hungry. There's another that says a hungry man is an angry man. So you don't want your patient to be angry by keeping them hungry. The patient depends on their home health aides and personal care aides to meet their physical needs, even if they are unable to tell them what the needs are. So, attend to physical needs, the patient should at least rest, should eat, should sleep, should play, catch fun, and other things. So they may not be able to tell you what their needs are, but they expect you to know them. Now, safety and security needs. Safety and security needs. A person who has a developmental disability may be reliant on others, including home health aides or personal care aides, to protect them from harm. Now, these patients cannot protect themselves, obviously. They can't protect themselves, and they need someone to protect them and secure them and prevent them from harm. So keeping the patient's home clean, harm now, harm not just physical harm, but also hazard, health hazards as well as infections and bacteria and diseases like that can affect your patient. So keeping the patient safe physically, keeping the patient safe financially, and keeping the patient safe health-wise. Like cleaning the house, the room, making it free from dirt, completing tasks such as laundry, vacuuming, cleaning, maintains a free and safe environment for the patients. Ensuring that patients properly use assistive devices such as canes, walkers, and wheelchairs to ensure their safety. The patient who is not able to walk well should have a walking stick or even a wheelchair. So this ensures that safety and reduces the tendency to fall. So remember to always lock brakes on chairs that can roll during patient's transfer. If it is a case where you are transferring patients, always check the chairs, lock the tires. Most of the tires have a brake. So you lock those brakes. Be cautious of trip and fall hazards. Patients can trip and fall. They are no longer safe if they do that, if they fall. Be proactive in preventing accidents. Teach the patients to be independent as possible within safe constraints. And if something is not safe for them to do alone, we are to discuss with them and help them to complete the task. We maintain good personal hygiene and washing their hands is important, and is also an important part of the task of a whole health aid or a personal care aid. Then we complete to provide for safety and security needs for their patients. And you observe for signs of abuse or harm and may be going on in the home. And this is a very important part of providing for safety. In a home where the patients could be abused due to their disabilities, you have to be very observant. So observing the signs of abuse on the patients due to the home or the environment they find themselves. Then you report any sign of abuse to a supervisor immediately. So this is the second one, the master hierarchy. See, money, safety, health safety, job safety, safety from harm itself, and home safety. Next one is need for love and belonging. Need for love and belonging. Everybody wants to be loved, and everybody wants to belong to a certain group, a peer group, whatever. It is important to know that as well as a potentially or an able-bodied person needs to be loved and needs to feel among. A developmentally disabled person also have the same need for love and belonging as anyone else. Sorry. By promoting involvement in the family and community, home health aides or personal care aides can help them meet this crucial need. Find opportunities for the patient to socialize with others, including the people with or without disabilities. Encourage patients to be involved with spiritual and religious practices they and their family believe in. If they're Christian, involve them in church activity. If they are Muslim, involve them in mosque activities, as well as their belief, whatever they believe in, we help them towards practice what they believe in. Support their belief in prayer before meals and bedtime, if this is something they choose. So for Christians who believe in God, pray before meal, pray when you wake up, pray before you sleep, for bedtime. Now, as home health aides or personal care aides, we can provide a feeling of love and belonging by being respectful, non-judgmental, and having the attitude that everyone has strengths and can make unique contributions to their family, community, and society. So make them feel among a picture of people being joyful together. That is what they want to feel like. Everyone wants to feel this way, same as those disabled person. Now, self-esteem. It is important to help provide positive self-esteem in all patients, or patients with disability or not. Now, people with disabilities, of course, they need more because they feel more, so they need more care. People who have a disability may at times feel guilty, embarrassed, or that they are not a valued part of their family or community due to having a disability. Home health aides or personal care aides can support development of their self-esteem by non-judgmentally helping them to find and utilize their strengths and talents, and also by promoting independence. They can also demonstrate to their patient that they accept them for who they are and that they are not defined by their disability. And all these things increases self-esteem, making them understand that I accept you for who you are, and you are not defined by what you look like. Like you are not defined by your look. Rather, I believe in who you are. So remember to so this increase their self-esteem. And also always remember to talk to and not about the person, like talk to them. Like talk, communicate with them, not about a person with a disability. Stop discussing disabilities, 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 people with disability. No. Talk more, discuss with them. Like life changing discussions, important discussions, motivational discussions, the things that would impact their life. So you treat them with respect also and use a positive communication methods. Taking care to be conscious of non-verbal communications. Uh, words are not just verbal, but also non-verbal. I may tell you, "Wow, you look beautiful," but my non-verbal communication portrays, "Oh, what have you even won today?" So we are careful that our non-verbal response to our non-verbal actions are not different from our verbals. Action speaks louder than voice. So act what you say. Like act like act like it. Don't act different from it because most patients some of them are good non-verbal communication with us. Even when you don't intend, when you don't intend to insult them or to make any kind of negative gestures, they pick it. We are what very careful towards. We are very conscious of our non-verbal communications. So we are sensitive to their feelings and recognize that the person may have different feelings about their situation. Never assume that you are what these are. You know, be sensitive to their feelings because they feel down, they feel most of them feel rejected and neglected or dejected. So you never assume that. Like you make them not to believe that they are what they look like. Encourage them to talk about their feelings and thoughts and help them to develop healthy coping strategies. Always maintain the dignity of a person who has a disability, even if they are totally dependent and, and on others for their care. Always maintain their dignity. Don't disrespect them. Don't insult them. They may be very vulnerable and rely on their home health aides or the personal care aides to provide their privacy and confidentiality. So, just a brief explanation on more of the last point. Said they are very vulnerable. They may be, of course, most of them are very, very vulnerable because words get to them. They think more than they ought to. When you tell them that, come on, leave, they'll be like, is it because I'm like this? So they take matters too personal. And because of that, they will, and because they also rely on the home health aides and personal care aides to provide everything, like even things of privacy. So to their home health aides, they they don't have a secret, like they can't hide themselves. But to you, a health home health aide, you make sure that as much as possible you respect their privacy and their confidentiality. Self-actualization. Self-actualization. Now, is another need, like the final of the, so to every person with a disability meets the Maslow's highest level of human needs hierarchy, which is self-actualization. Your home health aides should work with patients to help them get goals and dreams for the future. The fact that they cannot work, maybe they cannot go to school because they don't want to mingle with people, they could be taught at home and they could obtain their degrees and certificates even at home. The fact that they cannot talk doesn't mean they can't be good thinkers and good writers. So most of them have goals and ambition. They have one thing or the other to achieve in life, and they become limited due to the fact that they are disabled. Or you teach them that even with their disability, they can still achieve their goals. Not all goals needs movement, locomotion to be achieved. Not all goals needs to talk, like talking to be achieved. Not all goals, we have different goals to help them to achieve their dreams and their goals. Don't be judgmental about the goals they have for themselves. Imagine an autistic uh, aspiring to be a medical doctor, and you will, and as a home health aide, you are being judgmental. How will you treat patients when you can't even interact with people? No, 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 no. You don't be judgmental about the goals they have for themselves. Whatever they want to be, let them know they can, and you help them too, even if they seem impossible. Now, some goals are unachievable, but don't make them feel hopeless. Imagine someone who does not, who does not have a hand and leg, whose hands and legs are not really functioning, and they want to be a motorist. Uh, I think that's so extreme. But don't make them seem like this is unachievable. Like the moment you make them feel like this is unachievable, you have shattered their dreams. Rather, you recondition their mind and help them understand that it is possible to even be better. Why not aspire for something better that your strength will permit you to? So even if the goals may seem to be unachievable to you, never make them feel hopeless about their future or their dreams. You encourage them to take small steps to reach larger goals and provide praise and support along the way. To support the person in making decisions and choices whenever it's possible. Support them to make decisions, to make choices whenever possible. You don't make choices for them. You only support them to make choices, especially when you feel like the choice they're making is not going to be the best option for them. You advise. You don't coerce them. You don't force them. You don't force them. You you allow them to make decisions and support them when necessary. So look at it now, picture of experiencing the achievement, life achievement, self-actualize. When they actualize their dream, they are always very happy. They are, they're full of themselves, and they will think less of their disabilities and concentrate more on their abilities. But the more you make them see their disabilities, they begin to capitalize more on the disabilities and neglect aspects of their abilities. And trust me, the moment they neglect the aspect of their ability, that becomes a disability too. So you are not helping if a patient is not if you are not helping the patient to achieve their life goals, then you're not helping the patient at all. So all this hierarchy, the love, the physiological needs as well as the physical needs, the safety needs, the love needs, the esteem needs, and the self-actualization needs. I think you have to put in concentration when taking care of a disabled patient. So, as a personal care aides, what are your roles? What is our role as home health aides or personal care aides? Now, our role will vary depending on the needs of the patient with developmental disability and their family. That's something that they all have different needs. For many patients, home health aides or personal care aides will assist with providing or assisting to provide self-care. Self-care like bathing, brushing, wearing clothes, hygiene. All those are self-care, like body care. The personal skills covered in previous models and in the future models in this course will be able to use to work with the patient with developmental disability. So this includes like bathing, skincare, dressing, toileting, feeding, assisting ambulation. We'll talk about this as time goes on. How to help a patient to stand, how to dress a patient, how to bathe a patient, how to wash a patient's hand. All these skills will help us to be able to assist the patient effectively. Home health aides or personal care aid will also monitor their patient's health as directed by the care plan. Monitor the health. Developmental disability is not same as health challenge. Fine, it could be relating to a health challenge, but the fact that they are developmentally disabled doesn't mean they cannot develop malaria or typhoid or any other disease condition. So we are monitoring their health. If there is a deterioration in health, we seek what medical attention. And then we have to measure intake and output. Intake and output, that should be kept in mind when it is ordered. If that's in the care plan, we measure the intake and output. And they may also assist with housekeeping and meal preparation for their patients. Can help a patient to cook, and help a patient to keep the house, not clean the house. They also they may provide respite for the family and assist with supervision and child care while the family is busy with another task, or to allow them some respite. Now we help them to reduce the stress for the family by assessing the patient both with supervision, the care, the child when the family is busy, or when the family is doing other tasks, or even allow them to even rest. Another role of a personal care aid is that, as with all patients, using good communication skill is important and essential in doing their job well and meeting the needs of their patients. It is also part of the job to help these patients who need help learning effective communication skill. So you're not just to help the patient to use good communication skill, you're also to teach the patient to learn effective communication skills. And as with all patients, an important part of the job is to always be observing and documenting changes in physical, mental, emotional, and social health. Documenting what changes in physical health, mental health, emotional health, and what social health. Report any issues of concern to a supervisor immediately. Please don't take chances. Don't also make assumptions. If there's anything that happens that causes a change, you report immediately. Always document any observations and tasks that you have completed. Be watchful of issues of concern in the home, such as domestic violence, substance abuse, or child abuse, then report any concern to supervisor immediately. Now, what are your performance standards as home health aides? Now, as home health aides or personal care aides, we use all of the basic skills they have that you have learned in working with people with developmental disabilities. All, because you will meet varieties of people, you will meet varieties of people with developmental disabilities, you meet them. So we cannot just limit ourselves to a few skills. We have to learn all skills. So we will use all the basic skills that we have learned in working with people with developmental disabilities. And remember this following: speak to all people respectively and politely. Speak to all. Being polite and respectful is not only reserved of to those who are developmentally disabled alone, to everybody. Speak politely. And specifically the people who we are taking care of, our patients who are those developmentally disabled patients. So you include the patients in conversations. Don't always exclude them. Don't make them feel secluded. That is one problem they face. Seclusions. They feel idle. They feel isolated. So always include them in the conversation. Then you speak with and not about them. Speak with them. Don't speak about them. Like I said earlier, that not discussing about disabilities. You talk to them. Talk to them. Like have conversations, interesting conversations that will take their mind off their issues. You know that is most times even a diversional therapy for them. Then do not assume they cannot understand what is being said about them. Do not assume they cannot understand what is being said about them. You first feel like when we have a patient, they are so daft or unknowledgeable. Some of them are knowledgeable. Some of them know about their conditions very well. They don't speak to them. Don't assume that they cannot understand. So you can just see any shit at them. No, some of them understand a lot, even about themselves more than some health aides or personal care aides too. So we are careful when we handle with our patients, and we use positive verbal and non-verbal communication skills. Positive, positive in the sense that it should infringe a positive sense on the patient, not a negative feeling. So use positive verbal and non-verbal communication skills and avoid negative communication. Avoid negative communication. Explain things in a way the patient will also understand. You observe how they receive information and make adjustments to how you communicate based on their understanding. Encourage the patients to think by asking questions rather than just giving commands to them. Encourage them to think. Don't just tell them it's time to play. Tell them, would you love to play? It's time to eat. Brother, would you love to eat? So encourage them to think. Why they think they tell you, okay, yes, I want to, and you feed them. What would you like to eat? Okay, I would need this food. I would need this type of feeding. So encourage them to think for themselves rather than just giving them commands. Allow them a chance to respond and make choices. To make response and choices by themselves. Encourage independence by allowing the patient to do as much as they can rather than doing everything for them. We are there to help, yes, but we are not to completely make them incapable of doing anything. So we allow them to do things they can do for themselves by themselves. Be patient and allow extra time for task completing. Don't be in a rush. Don't always be in a rush. Give them time. Allow them to do tasks for themselves. Encourage them to be faster, even if they are very slow. Encourage them, but don't rush them. Don't force them. Don't push them. Give praise and encouragement. Always compensate them when they do a little thing. To praise them for it. Every little effort uh, imputed deserves appraisal. So you praise them, you encourage them, and you applaud them for the little they've done. Never be negative or criticize the patient when they are trying to complete the task. They could be trying to complete a task and they could act funny. Fine. Some patients can be funny at times. You know, some things are funny to watch. Imagine you see a patient who's uncoordinated with motor activities and then they want to speak and then is shaking and he fell off his hand. You may feel like to laugh, but trust me, as a health aide, you are not permitted to give any negative or critic feedback to your patients. So whenever they're trying to complete the task, even if they're not doing it well, don't give them this negative look. Give them a positive look that you can do this and you can be better. And you don't have to be tired. You can't be tired. Then you include the patients in decisions and provide choices to them whenever possible. Now, this promotes self-determination and independence. Always respect differences and individual desires, their needs and values. As everyone comes from a different family, different background, different ethnic groups, different language in general. So we have to consider the what? The differences in our desires and the values. then we are different. We all have differences in opinion and values. So we should never be judgmental about any patient. You follow these basic guidelines with all patients, including those who have developmental disabilities. While home health aides or personal care aides may need to make adjustments in how they complete tasks or how they communicate, the basic set of skills and performance standards are required for work with every patient. Following this, we will allow home health aides or personal care aides to provide the best care they can and to allow their patients to become as independent as possible. So here is a man on a wheelchair having what fun, doing things that feeling among the people of different groups, the community participation and the like. So it makes them feel have a good life expectancy and makes them feel belonged, makes them less outcast. Like, it makes them feel that they feel less thrown away, they feel less secluded. So this is the end of the slides. Just a brief recap to really remember what we talked about. So we talked about developmental disabilities and our home care as home health aides. And the first thing we talked about is developmental disabilities at home. How do we take care of them at home? What is our role uh, as home health aides? Because the picture is not the hospital, but a home. Then we also talk about caring for a child with developmental disability, caring for a child with developmental disability, and also caring for adults with developmental disability. We also talked about expectations and attitudes. What are the expectations from us and the attitudes from us as home health aides when taking care of a patient at home? We will address the person's disability, then focus on independence, productivity, and integration. We also talk about promotes self-determination and community participation. Then we now further we talk about the care needs and we discussed the Maslow's hierarchy of needs that was discussed in Module 2 and how they can be applied to working with a patient with developmental disabilities. And then we talk about the physiological needs, safety needs, belonging needs, esteem needs, and self-evaluation needs as the overview. Then we went deep into talking about the physical needs. Then we also talked about the safety and security needs. Then we talked about the need for belonging. Need for belonging. Sorry. Need for belonging are need for what? For love. Then we also talked about self-esteem needs. Self-esteem needs, how we can treat them to maintain their self-esteem. Then finally we talked about the self-actualization needs, how we help them to actualize their goals, see themselves where they have dreamt themselves to be, in spite of their developmental disability. Then talk about the role of personal care aides. What is the role of personal care aides at home? When taking care of a patient, we have to consider a lot of things. Then we talked about the performance standard. What are the standards of our performance? Performance standards. What are the things that are expected of health aides or personal care aides when dealing with these kinds of patients? And that is the end of the lecture for today. So thank you for your time and your participation. I'm done, ma'am.